Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Daze and welcome to today's opinions video for WWE RAW. We've got quite a few thoughts, theories, opinions that have come in from the community about last night's show. So let's get into it. And obviously later in this video, we'll take a look at all the scores that you gave to the matches and we'll look to see where the show is ranking for the year so far. We've got every WWE match from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Premium Live events. All of them have been rated for 2024. We can see how last night's matches compared. And of course, we've got every Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Premium Live event rated as well. We can see where last night's show is currently tracking. So lots of information to get our teeth into. But let's get started, shall we, with the comments that you guys have got. So James, shout out to you, said, I love Sami Zayn. There's a but coming, isn't there? Without even reading anymore, I can tell there's a but coming. I love Sami Zayn, but it should have been Gable. The story was there and it would have made for a perfect Mania moment. Not sure why Sami has been pushed back down into the mid-cards. At the same time, I get it. Frustrating, nonetheless. Now, my thoughts on this are, I get it. Totally understand. Gable winning was, I thought, locked. I was quite confident that's how it was going to go down. It didn't go that way, of course. My theory on this is that Sami obviously is a big star for WWE. He was massively over last year. He was obviously in the bloodline. That all fell apart. Then he was a tag champ, main evented night one. I think they've invested a lot in Sami. Way more than they have in Chad. And so I think they're looking at the card this year and thinking, where can we put Sami? Where can Sami go on the card? And there's not really like a big obvious place to put him because he can't go in the title matches. He's not involved in any feuds. The person he would be in a feud with would be Drew, but Drew's in the title match with Seth. And I do wonder, was the plan Drew versus Sami? I mean, I would imagine it was. I would imagine that was the plan. But as soon as CM Punk got injured, that then meant that Drew got elevated to Seth's opponent, and all of a sudden Sami doesn't have an opponent. Well, we know it was going to be Brock versus Gunther at WrestleMania. And so Sami doesn't have an opponent. Gunther doesn't have an opponent. We know that they're going to absolutely bang. So you can sort of see why we've ended up where we've ended up. The only thing I would say is if we were going to get Brock versus Gunther, I think Gunther would have won. So I think you can have some confidence that Gunther is going to get past Sami. And then that would mean that Chad could still be the one. Chad could still get his moment. So this is a bump in the road. It's a bit of heartbreak for Chad fans that really wanted him to win that Gauntlet match. But I still think his time will come. So, I mean, like, I wouldn't mind if Ilya was the one to beat Gunther, to be honest. And there's maybe a chance that Ilya could come up and do that. But I still think Chad has got to be in the conversation. I currently don't think Sami is going to beat Gunther at WrestleMania, but I think you can sort of see why we've ended up where we've ended up. Hayden said, I was really enjoying the show until Sami won. I like Sami, but he just didn't feel like the right guy. Should have been Gable. Well, I suppose they could have done Gable against Gunther, and they could have had Gable win, but I think there's maybe a reason as to why they didn't go in that direction. You can understand, as I've just explained, why we've ended up where we've ended up, because I think we were meant to get Sami versus Drew. That had to change when CM Punk got injured. We were meant to get Gunther versus Brock. That obviously had to change as well, so I think that actually Chad here might be a victim of all the changes that's happened. I don't think he was ever really factored in for being in that spot for WrestleMania. They just maybe did too good of a job building him up. You know, they probably shouldn't have gone as heavy with building him up and getting everyone kind of amped up for him. They probably shouldn't have done that. They probably should have just kept it quiet, and then everyone wouldn't have got as worked up. So I agree. I mean, like, Sami for me should be a world champion, not a mid-card champion. So I completely agree. But I don't think he wins. I don't think he wins. I think hopefully he wins Money in the Bank. I would love for Sami to do that. And if he wins Money in the Bank, that would be amazing. So I would love for Sami to win Money in the Bank. I don't think he beats Gunther. And I think what we're looking at is Chad potentially doing it. There's obviously a few names. You can't rule out Sheamus. I really wouldn't mind Ilya being the one, but yeah, again, you know, this is why we've ended up where we've ended up. I feel like this is probably going to be the main talking point in this video, so it's good to kind of get it all out the way early. Top Tier Wrestling said, Seth bringing up the fact that Drew needed help to beat Cody and Jay makes me think he can't beat Seth clean. So I believe Sheamus will return at Mania to help Drew win. That's interesting. That's interesting. I don't know how I would feel about that. I mean, Sheamus at the moment is sort of a face. He was a face. And yeah, that's interesting. If he comes back and is a heel, did not consider that, so that's something to mull over. WWE AEW fan said, I enjoyed Raw this week, but the women's tag match should have been a backstage segment. So yeah, I agree with that. I think that weird moment where she was talking to Maxxine during the match, it was strange, wasn't it? Because they were like in the middle of a match. Like, why didn't Maxxine just punch her? Why didn't she push her? Why did she stand there and listen to her opponent talking to her like mid-match, insulting? As soon as if I was in that position, I don't even know if I'd let my opponent stand there and say anything. I mean, I would be in, like, you know, fighting. I'd be in fight mode. And so it was a bit strange. But for her to stand there so long and then get affected by it and sort of run out the ring, like, I understand that the brother line was very, very heavy. I understand that. But that came at the end, you know. She could have pushed her before she even got to that brother line. So I agree this might have had a bit more pop if it had been a promo exchange. So, yeah. I gotta tell you, it did not score well, that match. It is, I mean, it's no spoiler. We've already said it's the lowest rated match of the year on our system. And we'll get to that later, so... Jello Man said, do you think Sami winning the Gauntlet was the right call? That's an excellent question. I would say probably not, if you look at the reaction. It's very difficult for me because I'm a Sami fan. I really like Sami. And, you know, if Sami didn't win this Gauntlet, what would he be doing at WrestleMania? Where would he be? What would he be doing? I honestly don't know. And someone like Sami not being on the card, I mean, I just can't imagine that. Someone like Sami being in the Andre Battle Royal or finding a tag partner and going into some tag showcase match. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know. For me, it's very hard to be down on Sami against Gunther. I just know that match has got everything I need for a match of the year. Sami against Gunther absolutely can be a match of the year. And I know a lot of people will be like, yeah, but Chad versus Gunther could be that as well. And it absolutely could. You'd be right. But we have also seen it. We've done it. But I don't know that we've done Sami Gunther. I can't recall Sami Gunther. So I'm excited by that matchup. And I really like Sami Zayn. And I don't mind him losing at WrestleMania because I want him to win the world title. So it would be an excellent defense for Gunther. And I really think that Sami doesn't win. And so that would mean that Chad gets his opportunity still. He still could be the one that beats Gunther. He can still get revenge for his daughter crying. And, you know, it's really difficult. I kind of feel like either, you know, if Chad had won, no complaints. I would say it probably was wrong, not for me, but just because I think we've already seen people saying that they love Sami, but they wanted Chad, and I think that'll be repeated throughout this opinions video. So definitely think that that's the vibe. Love Sami. No one's got anything bad to say about Sami. Everyone knows it's going to be a banger match, but the Chad story means more. It just means more. So I'm going to say, yeah, I think it was the wrong call. but I still can't complain about it because it's going to be a banging match. Brad, shout out to you, said Raw was good. Cody segment, man, I was gonna be in tears when he finally wins. I know. R-Truth hitting Cena's moves successfully was amazing. Sami winning was amazing, but I don't think he wins at Mania. Candice promo should have had a mic. Completely agree. Overall, 7 out of 10 for me. Very fair. JB17 said we all love Sami, but wanted Gable. Sami main evented last year. It's Gable's time. Cody's promo was the highlight of the night for me. The emotion and captivation made me want to see him win even more. I agree. I agree. Ryan said, overall good show. Props to Sami Zayn, who was able to put on a solid performance when he's fasting. Oh, is he fasting at the moment? That's interesting. Yeah, amazing. That really can affect athletes. So for him to go out there and man, I mean, he was really having to dig deep, wasn't he? There were some moments where it really felt like he was going to submit. So yeah, it was a really good encounter, a real good battle between him and Chad, you know, real good battle. And I mean, again, I know this is going to be unpopular, but for me, I really want Sami to be a world champion. So yeah, he could have lost to Chad, who came out last, and Sami was already beaten down. He absolutely could, but it is a pretty good look for Sami that he was able to come out and win that gauntlet. Like, I feel like that should hopefully set him up for big things this year, you know? Now he'll go to WrestleMania. He'll face Gunther. Who knows? Maybe he'll be on the verge of winning and there'll be some outside interference, Imperium. Maybe someone else comes down and interferes. But yeah, it's hard for me to be against Sami being built up because we've been waiting for Sami to get this opportunity. And it was weird. I know people have already said like he main evented last year. He's had his time. That really felt like a consolation prize, considering he was, I don't know, it felt very close to being the one to beat Roman. Like, he had the crowd support. The crowd were right with him. The crowd, like, you know, chanting his name. He was so over. What you remember at Rumble when he hit Roman with that chair? He was so over. It was, you know, that was an amazing time for Sami. And of course, everything's settled down now. Of course, it's not the same now. But I still think that you've got something special with Sami. And so it's just really hard for me to like go against Sami because he's my guy. And I really want to see him become world champion. So yeah, good point. Good point. The Cody segment was brilliant, said Brony. The emotion and delivery was amazing, and it made me want to root for him at Mania, even though I'm a huge Roman fan. Cody is the right guy to dethrone Roman. I agree. Also, very shocked that Gable didn't win. I think Gunther should retain at Mania because Sami doesn't need it. Yep, I agree with that. Cameron said it feels like they wanted Sami on the WrestleMania card, and so they chose Gunther Sami. I don't think Sami will win. He's been talking about how he's a world champion contender. I believe he'll lose at WrestleMania. And with Money in the Bank being in Canada, I could easily see him winning the briefcase. I hope everything you've just said there is correct. I really want all of that to happen. I would love for him to be the guy that wins that briefcase. And, oh my God, that would be amazing. Liar Punk said, as for, oh hello, I'm hella confused on the IC title road and the women's world title picture. People have been saying that Gable's shoulders were up when Sami got the 1, 2, 3, so that's interesting. We'll see how that plays out. I'm guessing triple threat. I don't know that they'll make anything of it because his shoulders do sort of come up, but I mean, there's really not much in it. It's not like this big, glaring, obvious. It's like when Sami gets him, I think just pulls him a little too much and Chad's shoulders just momentarily come up. It's so slight. I actually think it was just a botch. I think if you was going to do it on purpose, I think you would make it more obvious than that. So for me, I don't think it was anything for it but a botch at this stage. I'm not expecting them to make anything of it as a result, but we'll have to wait and see. As for the women's title picture, are they still confusing us that this might turn into a four-way? I believe so. Is it like an adversity tour for Becky to overcome Liv, Nia, and Rhea to get at Mania? To be honest, I just think that they're keeping us guessing. I really like that. You know, one of the big criticisms from WrestleMania builds in the past is how obvious everything was. Everything just flowed in a straight line. So it's like, you know, you win the Rumble and you pick your champ and that's it. Off we go. Whereas, you know, is Cody going to pick Roman? Is he not picking Roman? Is it going to be Roman? Now we've got this situation where it is Becky Rhea, but is Liv going to get involved? Is Nia going to get involved? Is it going to be a triple threat? Is it going to be a fatal four-way? I really like that. I really like how the waters are getting muddied. I really like that, so I can't criticize this. So I don't know that there's really anything to be confused about. I just think watch it and like let it play out. I feel confident that clearly we're going to get Becky and Rhea. We just don't know if there will be some extra people in there. It might be that we end up with Becky versus Rhea and Liv versus Nia as two separate matches. It could be that we get all of them into the same match as like a fatal four-way. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not really too bothered with what we get because I'm not massively into any of these women. Like, none of them are people that I, like, you know, massively am going to go to war for. You know, I don't feel for any of these women the same way I do for Sami, for example, or Gunther, or Ilya. So for me, whatever we end up getting, we end up getting. I still think that Rhea leaves WrestleMania as champion. I think there's maybe an outside chance for Liv because she's really going hard on this Liv Morgan revenge tour thing. Becky doesn't need it, so I don't think she gets it. I can't see them putting it on Nia. So for me, it's either Mommy leaves as champ, stays champ. Maybe we build towards her against Bianca later in the year, or maybe Liv finally grabs that title and enjoys a run that her fans have been waiting for, because she had the belt before, but it wasn't a good title run. So, you know, maybe they're ready to pull the trigger on her now. So, but I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't, like, you know, that confusion is by design. Wrestling fan since day one said Rhea should win against Becky at WrestleMania and just keep building her up until a babyface. Maybe Raquel, as someone could take the title from her later down the line. Sami winning was the right call. For me, the show was 6 out of 10. Ryan said Sami doesn't need the IC title. Even though Gunther has elevated the title, this feels like one step back in the development of Sami's character. He's already reached the top of this specific mountain, and in my opinion, he should be focused on the World Heavyweight Championship. I think he is, but it's just not there for him right now. You could maybe make the argument of him trying to get into that match and make it a triple threat, but he's not really got any place in that match. And what with him being a babyface, I don't know. I don't know that I don't know. It would be very hard to find a way of getting him into that match. You could do it, but clearly they're not interested in doing that. And so if he can't get into that World Heavyweight Championship match, what do you do with him? I completely agree. He's conquered the Intercontinental Championship mountain. I completely agree with you on that. But if you don't put him in that match, what do you do with him? I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it? We haven't got long. I mean, you could build up a bit of a feud, but I don't know if it's going to be that hot of a feud. You know, I think, like, you probably need to have built it by now, really. Now, you know, we're starting to get to the point where it's final touches. I mean, we are amazingly almost in the middle of March, and it's the first week of April, WrestleMania. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those. It's just one of those where, as we said earlier, he was probably going to face Drew. Drew's now in a different position. Gunther was going to face Brock. Gunther's in a different position now because Brock's not around. And I think we've just rejigged it, and this is how the cards have fallen. So, again, I wouldn't really read too much into it. I don't think there's a big long-term plan to make Sami Intercontinental Champion, and fingers crossed he is lined up for that Money in the Bank in Canada, in Toronto. Dean Parker said, I thought Raw was better than last week. The Gauntlet match was very good, and I'm glad it was the main event. R-Truth match was good. Nice to see R-Truth sing his way to the ring again. Thought it was funny that Truth did not know what day it was. Cody's promo was phenomenal. Oh, emotional. I just made up the word there. Emotional. But phenomenal fits as well. Botched Eye Surgery said, I'm legit stunned. I'm happy for Sami, but I was certain Chad Gable was going to win. Feels like there's more to this story. Shocking, honestly. What's everyone's thoughts? That was a crazy good main event. It was a fantastic match. I wonder if we get a triple threat. Well, I feel like we've touched on a lot of those points. As I said, for me, the shoulder thing has been a lot of talk online about that, and obviously we made it the thumbnail, and we spoke about it in Unseen. But for me, I don't know that it was obvious enough for me to feel that they were really playing into that. They could use it now. You know, there is an opportunity to run that footage back and show that at some point, one, if not both of his shoulder blades do momentarily leave the mat. Like, you could absolutely lean into that if you want to. But I don't know. I just don't know that I've got confidence that's the direction that they want to go in. So I have no idea, you know, if Chad's not in that match, what the plans are for him. Hopefully they still have something pretty good. But I don't know, man. Chad Gable winning the IC title the night after WrestleMania, you know, on that Raw after WrestleMania, making Raw after WrestleMania exciting once again. I would not be down on that. I wouldn't be down on that. I would love for Raw after WrestleMania to feel as bonkers as it did about 10 years ago. I would absolutely love that. So I wouldn't be down if that's the plan. Gunther's Chop said Sami winning was stupid. I love Sami, but he's already held the IC title 3 times. Sami said himself in a Raw interview he needs to show that he can be a world champion, but he's challenging now for a mid-card belt. Gable has a better story with Gunther and deserved this. So I think we've boxed that off. Miss Clown said Raw was okay. Miss Clown, I hope you're well. Alex said, this is my theory. Reckon Sami pulled Gable a little too hard by accident or possible storyline. I think accident, to be perfectly honest. As I said, I think if it was storyline, I think you would make it a bit more obvious. Like, you really have to look to see if that shoulder blade comes up off the mat. I mean, I use the image as my thumbnail for Unseen, and after it went up and everything, I was looking in it, I was like, I don't think you can really see even if that shoulder's up. Like, the arrow is pointing to the shoulder, like, did you notice this? Everyone's talking about this. But you could easily look at that image and go, his shoulders are on the mat. Like, it's really not super, super obvious. Maybe I could pause it at a different point and maybe it would look a little bit better, but I just sort of think, like, if you wanted to make a thing out of it, you'd make it more obvious than the way that they did it. So I'm leaning into accident, personally. Charles said, hashtag we want Gable. The Real Steel said Sami decided last week that he wanted to chase that title. Chad has been on the hunt for the better part of the year. It doesn't seem fair. Rico said, if you want to keep the heat on, why didn't Bayley attempt to interfere in the tag match? They all turned on her, not just Io. Bayley versus Io can be a special match. Keep it front of mind. Hashtag Paramore for Mania. Yeah, she could have interfered, but to be honest, if you're Triple H, do you want to put the belts onto Shayna and Zoey? Because if Bayley had interfered, then surely it's got to result in a title change. She can't really interfere and then the titles still don't change, because that looks a bit silly on her. So you would only do that if you wanted the title change. And I don't think WWE wanted the title change. So it's one of those where in kayfabe, you could ask the question, and you're right to, you know, in storyline, why didn't she? But, you know, maybe she could say, well, she's on her own. How's she meant to interfere when, you know, Io is out there and Dakota is out there because they were at ringside? You know, they could have dealt with Bayley before Bayley even got chance to interfere in the match. So maybe from a storyline point of view, that would be what she would say. But from a non-storyline, from a, you know, real life point of view, I just think Triple H wasn't looking to put the belts on Shayna and Zoey at this time. Martel Wells said it was great. Zohib said, pretty solid show. 3 women's matches back-to-back was nice. Great Cody promo. Awesome gauntlet match. Wasn't expecting Sami to win, but it's going to be a great match against Gunther. I was expecting a tag team title split, but a ladder match is not bad. Yeah, I agree. I was also expecting the announcement to be the title splitting. I was not expecting a ladder match, but I am totally down for that. Totally down for that. Magic Dak said, Daze, I'm sure you believe Sami winning this title really does nothing for him. I agree with you. I believe this was to see if they could get a Gable movement going, like what happened to Cody. Sami doesn't beat Gunther at Mania. I think they definitely want sympathy for Gable. I don't know that they're looking to insert him in the match at Mania, but as I said, the Raw after WrestleMania, you know, Gunther gloating that he's beaten Sami in the ring and that no one can stop him. Gable comes down, issues a challenge. Gunther accepts. Intercontinental title match. Gable wins on Raw. I mean, we've done that similar thing with AJ Lee and Paige. When Paige came down to congratulate AJ Lee for retaining her title at WrestleMania, she just came down and said, like, I just wanted to say in person, well done. AJ was like, who are you to interrupt me? Like, if you want to come and interrupt the champ, then that means you're stepping up to the champ, which must mean you want a match with the champ. And I tell you what, I'll put my title on the line as well, yeah? And so they did, and Paige ended up winning, becoming the brand new Divas champion on her first night on the main roster. It was an amazing moment. It was the Raw after WrestleMania. And honestly, I would not be down if that is the plan. Travis said it was okay. I like the gauntlet idea. You don't see those much anymore. 6.75 out of 10. I'd be a lot happier if other creators would stop pushing this Brock narrative, making everyone think he's about to return. Now they're saying he's in-game. I think he never left that either. Well, I can't speak for other creators, to be honest. I mean, all I can focus on myself is, I don't get my news from other creators, and this is no shade on other creators, but I think you'll find that a lot of people get their news from the same places. You know, it's your Sean Ross Sapps, it's your Dave Meltzers, it's your PW Insiders, it's your Wrestle Votes, it's your Better Wrestling Experience. You know, it's these are the places that have got proven sources, that have got stuff right in the past. Maybe, you know, in Dave's case, you know, there might be a bit of a wobble recently, but, you know, a lot of these have come good, right? So I was actually streaming UFC when all this Brock stuff like exploded, so I can't really comment as to what happened with the Brock stuff. This is crazy to me. But I'm sure before I did UFC there was no talk, and then like during the UFC stream, which was like a good 7-8 hours long, this thing exploded, and then afterwards I've got messages telling me that Brock's on his way back and that he's been re-added to the website. Now, thankfully, I'm someone that tends to question a lot of stuff that I see anyway, but I also saw people questioning it online as well, and so looked into it, did the Wayback Machine thing and all of that kind of stuff, and, you know, I also searched to see if I could find articles that specifically said he'd been removed from the website. I can see articles saying he was out of the game. I can see articles saying he was off the active roster. I cannot find, nor have I been sent anything concrete. No screenshots, no links to articles, nothing. I have not been sent anything that tells me he was removed from the website, right? I've had people send me stuff saying he was removed from the active roster, but that's not necessarily the website. The active roster could just mean the current creative plans. Do you know what I mean? Like the wrestlers that the creative team are booking for. that could just mean that the creative department have been told don't book for Brock. But that doesn't mean anything to do with the website. So, yeah, for me, this was weird. It was weird. Everyone seemed to jump on this story. It's one of those where I really believe currently, and I could be wrong, but my personal belief is that a couple of big sources, couple of big accounts have jumped on this story. And then as soon as they've run with it, everyone else runs with it. As soon as they run with it, everyone else, because everyone else can then blame them. If PW Insider or Wrestle Talk or Cultaholic or WrestleLamia or Sportskeeda or, you know, any of these people run with a story, everyone else can run with it. Because if it turns out that it's not true, everyone can go, well, I saw it on Wrestle Talk. You know, those guys are normally pretty good. And everyone can, like, point the finger and say, well, you know, they said it. Kind of a situation, so... Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I mean, look, we're dealing with the murky, dirty, muddy world of rumors and speculation and everything, so you're always going to have these kinds of things, but for me, personally, I don't expect Brock to be returning anytime soon. But that could change, you know? I mean, we just don't know what's happening with this situation. I mean, it's all kind of... Well, I would say it's all behind closed doors, but it's not all behind closed doors, is it? It's clearly not all behind closed doors. But it's funny because just before recording this, I got tagged in a thing that Wrestling Observer Radio or whatever, they had mentioned that Brock was expected to return, or that there'd been talk about Brock potentially returning. And so that's doing the rounds. But I mean, again, has anyone gone to the radio clip and actually listened to exactly what was said? Or are people just spreading around what, I don't know, WrestleLamia has put out there? It's funny, isn't it, how trusting wrestling fans are? Like, as soon as they see someone like a WrestleLamia or, you know, even this channel, you know, I think if we were to put some out like that, there'd be a good chunk of people that would, you know, believe it and, you know, go with it, because I think we've kind of built up a reputation that we don't mess around with fake news. You know, we only deal with good sources and, you know, what's really being said. I don't listen to Johnny down the road who thinks he might know something, you know, because he's having a guess. We're dealing with Sean Rossap, we're dealing with Dave Meltzer, we're dealing with these, you know, good names that have got, I believe, good sources. But yeah, there is a story that, like, Brock might potentially on his way back that I saw breaking about an hour ago. But has anyone actually gone and listened to the radio clip that has been taken from? Does anyone know the exact quote that was said? Because that could just be Brian Alvarez reacting to the same news that circulated over the past 48 hours, you know? So it's a muddy, dirty world, isn't it? It's a muddy, dirty world, the wrestling rumor world. Watson said, with Punk being on Raw in a few weeks, I hope he announces he's going to be a ref for the Mania match. He doesn't like Seth or Drew, but I think he would rather Drew win so he can take the title off him, as he was the one who injured Punk. Could be interesting. Drew keeps on killing it. So, Watson, shout out to you. Could Punk be announced as the special guest ref? We'll have to wait and see. For me personally, I'd rather him be the host, to be honest. I think he'd be great as the host. And it would be really fun if at some point he brought out AJ Lee and she came out and there was a big reaction for her coming out. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Imagine that at WrestleMania, CM Punk, AJ Lee in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania. I mean, how could you ever fathom that like a few years ago? So if I could pick someone, I'd have him as host, but guest ref, we'll have to wait and see, buds. I hope you are well. Magic Dak 69 said, I feel like either it becomes a triple threat or something happens with Sami. All I know is that Triple H is about making something obvious inobvious. I believe the match will change come Mania. Challenger Dark said, I'm so hyped for that ladder match. I was fantasy booking with a friend last week and it's exactly what I was wanting since the tag division is so stacked. I'm sad that Chad didn't win. I hope he wins Money in the Bank or beats Gunther at another PLE. Loved the Gauntlet match too. Very cool. Right, Harry, I'm just going to throw over to the matches first because I can see time is getting away from us a little. So this is how the matches scored. 5 matches and a real variety on Raw this week. 3 of the matches came out good. So Kabuki Warriors, 92%. Damian Priest R-Truth, 94%. Becky Liv, 94% as well. So I actually thought Becky Liv was better than Damian R-Truth personally, and it did just come out ahead of it. But I wouldn't have personally said that they were both the same sort of score. I thought that Becky Liv was a better match. But either way, it still comes out as the second best match off the show. Best match, of course, being the Gauntlet match. That got a great rating, so that actually came out as great. It's been a while since we've seen a great match, to be honest. And look at this, our very first, we've never had before a bad rating. It's our only bad rating. We've never had one. So if we select all the matches, you can see all the matches so far. So up here, Nia Jax Becky is still our match of the year. It was the very first match that we voted on. You know, we've said it so many times. I think if we were to re-vote on that, I don't know that it would score as high. I think it would probably still come out as great because it was a really good match, great match, but I don't know that we can say it was as high as that. So for me, my favorite match is this, actually. It's Ilya against Trick. Ilya against Trick is the my current match of the year, and I think this might be my second as well. Lyra against Roxanne with Lola cashing in. I agree with this. I so enjoyed this match, or both of these matches. So you can see, like, not loads of great matches. That's it for the year so far. So Sami winning goes in there. So you can look at that. Look at that. That makes that match, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 17. So it's the 17th best match of the year. Sami winning the Gauntlet. And if we go all the way down, look, call them. That is now the worst match. These ones were not scored because there was injuries that happened during them, so they just ended. But so these aren't scored, but this is our only bad match of the year so far. So really interesting match results there. And then if we look at the show scores, you can see that we've got these 3 SmackDowns at the top. And then we've got all these great ones. At the moment, Raw is coming in here. So 93% good is where Raw is at the moment. I don't mind that, to be honest. I might be tempted just to put it at the bottom of great. Like, it would be right at the bottom, but for me, I might be just that little bit higher. But yeah, I'm not against it being around this ballpark. So that's where it's going in at the moment. Not quite in the top part of the rankings, but not too bad. I mean, it could be like down here with all this cluster of NXT. NXT is not having a great time at the moment. Look at all these. NXT is really propping up a lot of stuff, isn't it? NXT struggling at the moment. So a few NXTs up here, but not as many as this cluster. So yeah, that's where we are with all of that. So some really interesting stuff coming back. Right, Harry said, what's up, Daze? Hope you're well. Love Sami winning the match. Guaranteed more of a pop if he wins, especially as you said, you would just be pleased for Gable if he wins. Maybe they won't look to make him win Money in the Bank if he holds the title for a while. Well, I'm leaning to Sami not winning and him going on to win Money in the Bank. That's what I'm rooting for. I'm just rooting for a banging match, man. Give me a 5-star match. Gunther and Sami could deliver a Macho Man Ricky Steamboat. They could deliver one of the most iconic WrestleMania matches that we have ever seen. And Gunther did it last year with that triple threat. And Sami did as well, thinking about it. Didn't Sami and Kevin against the Usos get 5 stars from Dave? And I'm pretty sure that triple threat intercontinental match also got 5 stars. So now we're just taking Gunther and Sami and putting them in a singles match. That's, you know, that's got 5 stars written all over it, to be honest. So hopefully they can deliver that. That's what I'm looking for. Gunther retains. Sami goes to Money in the Bank, and maybe Chad wins it on the Raw after WrestleMania. Alex said it was an alright show. I'm finding Seth's character kind of cringe now. Drew looks so happy now. The Cody promo was one of the best he's done since he came back. You could feel the emotion. The Maxxine segment was weird. It made no sense. Gunther retains against Sami. Yeah, the Maxxine moment was a bit strange. I think for me, the Maxxine moment, I don't mind about her brother. Doesn't bother me in the slightest, because backstage, you know, she gave her consent. So that doesn't bother me. But fair play for her for allowing that, you know. Not everyone would have allowed that to build up sympathy. But yeah, just the way that it came out, the moment that it happened, the fact it was during a match and everything. I agree, it was weird. I think we could have done it better, to be honest. I think we could have got a bit more impact to it. I'm not convinced that everyone even heard what was said. You know, because it wasn't all mic'd up, so I don't know that we really got the crowd reaction and everything. So I agree, weirds. Gunther will retain against Sami, says Alex. Brandon says Roman Reigns. Mr. Sims said, why was Raw 2 hours instead of 3? It was 3, buds. It might be a case that you tuned in at the usual time, which is 1 a.m. And at the moment, because America have changed their clocks, the shows are starting an hour earlier. So normally it starts at 1 a.m., but last night here in the UK, it started at midnight. So there's a whole hour for you to go and find and enjoy. So, and it was decent as well, you know. That first hour was all right. There was some decent stuff. That stuff said, do you think this is intentional? Thank you, Mania, to those who took one for the team last year. Bayley, Becky, Miz constantly put over young talent last year, and now they've got title matches. Sami played his role, never got his flowers. Now he gets a title match. That's interesting. That's interesting. Are we kind of repaying these people? Maybe. To be honest, I think that's quite good leadership, because, you know, if you've got... Imagine you're at WrestleMania 39. If you're a booker and you're in creative, like, coming up with these amazing stories is fantastic, but there's going to be people that get left out. So you could imagine Triple H going up to them going, listen, I'm going to look after you next year, right? You've got to trust me. I've got your back next year. But I just need to tell these stories now, right? But we'll start working towards next year. I could definitely see them kinds of conversations going. I'm sure Vince had those conversations, only I doubt Vince had any intention of actually following up on them. But yeah, I could see those kind of conversations happening with Triple H. This is stuff that matters, you know. Money is very important. But people, you know, want to work and build their brands, and they want to be big stars. And if they're just sat on the bench and there's nothing for them, it's just the worst. And there's some real big stars that miss out, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's a coincidence or if those kind of conversations happen, but wouldn't surprise me if a few of those were because of a conversation like that. So very interesting, thought-provoking, that dad stuff. Love that. Angie said, I thought it was really good. Do you think they may change up Ricochet's character? Maybe because he's not been on TV much. I felt some fire in the pre-tape promo he did. It was really good to see. Also, Cody M.F.ing Rhodes. That is all. I would love for them to change Ricochet's character, but until I see it, I can't believe in it, because they've needed to change his character for years, and it's not happened. So until they do it, it's very hard for me to sit here and go, yeah, they're definitely going to do it. But they absolutely should. We've spoken before about, for me, what I would like to see. I would like to see something more along the lines of Prince Puma. I would change everything. I would change his look. I would change his presentation. I would probably put him back under a mask. I love the Prince Puma name from Lucha Underground that he had. I mean, Prince Puma was crazy, right? I don't know if you ever saw Lucha Underground, but when I watched it, their red hot babyface was Prince Puma. And I remember watching him being like, where has this guy come from? Where has this guy, who is this guy? How is he doing what he can do? Because Ricochet can do amazing things. And I think in recent years, we see a lot more of it now on TV than we used to. Mainly thanks to AEW, right? But Lucha Undergrounds, they were just doing stuff that you just couldn't even believe that a human was capable of doing. And it was Ricochet that was under that mask. And he was their red hot babyface. And I distinctly remember thinking, could you imagine if WWE got Prince Puma? I'm not lying. I distinctly remember watching that thinking, imagine this guy in WWE. And here we are. We've got him. We've had him. He's been here for years. And he's floundered. And you would think it impossible. You would think it impossible. And I know that his personality is not the brightest, doesn't shine as bright as others. I know his promo skills aren't as killer as others. I know that he hasn't got a massive size. But, you know, that never stopped Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio is one of the most iconic wrestlers in the history of wrestling. For many people, the greatest masked wrestler of all time. So I look at Ricochet and I'm like, how have we not achieved more with him? It doesn't make sense. So I would love a repackage. Love it. I think he is so underappreciated. I think there is so much more we can get out of him. And I don't even care what we do. Give him a group, give him a faction, give him a manager, give him a mask, give him backstage vignettes like Shinsuke. Give him whatever. I don't care. Give him everything. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. I think the truth probably is, though, we've just got a stacked roster. You know, you can't push Andrade and Sami and Kevin and The Rock and Cody and Roman and Shinsuke and Seth and, you know what I mean, Logan. And, you know, you just can't push absolutely everybody. And so this is why people have to sit on the sidelines. And some people, unfortunately, probably spend too long on the sidelines. And I think that is Ricochet. Alice said Seth has buried his championship by saying the tag match is more important. That's interesting. It's good perspective. Ashton said tonight's Raw was really good. Cody's segment was brilliant. Sami and Gunther is going to bang. Jay challenge as well. Mania could really be one of the biggest ever match-wise. Nando said Chad's shoulders were up. I hate that. Yeah, look, here's the picture. So this is the picture that Nando's included. And it's like, that to me is, you know, the very tops of his shoulders. I feel like the very, very peak of the shot. I know it's the shoulder blade, but like, I believe the shoulder blade goes up to like here. So, you know, there is, it's really hard. I mean, we are really not talking much. We're talking millimeters. I think if you were going to make a big deal out of that, I think that you would really want to make it obvious. More obvious than what this is. So I feel I agree. You know, if I had to put money on are his shoulders touching the mat right there, I agree. I would go, no, I don't think they are. But it's not super obvious. It's not super obvious. So for me, this is why I'm leaning that it's accidental. Nando, I read Nando's in Unseen, so we've kind of already covered that. But I didn't speak about this bit. How did Sami, a weak Sami, not tap? Because it's Sami, and he dug deep. He dug deep. That's what Sami does. Love that guy. Lover to You said it was a great Raw. I feel like Candice turning heel is definitely the way to go. I just hope they change her appearance to be more heelish. On another note, do you think it's a good idea to have Sami win over Gable? Last question. Do you think Brock will come back? Brock could come back one day, but I don't think before WrestleMania. Do I think it was good to have Sami win over Gable? I personally don't mind, for the reasons said. But if you look at the reaction, it's clear that the universe wanted Gable. And yes, I agree. Love Candice, and I would love for them to lean more into her being a heel. Yeah, and I think they will. I'm very excited about that Candice heel turn. Very excited. Phoenix Maximus said Cody's promo had me in tears. Would go to war for that guy. Gable versus Zayn was a PLE match. Ready for start Baszler to win the tag titles. Drew has never been better. I agree. Seth versus Drew should be a long program. Tag titles need to split. Love that. That's a really good way of like just getting in your bang, bang, bang. That's a good way of getting in your points. So yeah, I mean, I ain't got a problem with that. Yep. All checks out. All checks out. Metal Tail Thong said, good Raw this week, although the announcement from the two GMs was a little flat for me. Looks like Gunther retains at Mania. Gable now wins Money in the Bank. Oh, I'd have Sami. Both going forwards. In my opinion, a good 7 discus clotheslines out of 10. So, Metal Tail Thong, shout out to you. How many more have we got? Oh, we've got can we get through these? At the time of recording this, I have literally got 5 minutes till the Wrestling Escape Pods. So we might have to quickly blast through these. Alan said it was a solid show. I expected Sami to win, but I feel sad for Chad. Let's see what WWE is cooking. Brady said, I don't think the Candice and Indi versus Maxxine and Ivy match itself was bad. The thing about the match that was bad was that it only lasted 3 minutes. LS Dub said it's hard to complain at getting Sami Gunther, a potential match of the year candidate. I do like the possibility this sets up because Gable can still be the guy. I don't think Sami beats Gunther. That said, it should have been Gable. His redemption story for WrestleMania is too good to pass up. Dave said, not a great show. I thought the first hour and a half was flat. Show didn't get going until Cody's interview. Michael asked the hard-hitting questions. Gauntlet match was the highlight. Gutted for Chad, but glad that Sami goes for a title at Mania. 7 out of 10. Chris said this was the first Raw since I started watching WWE again in late 2022. I was glued to the TV, barely touched my phone. From start to finish, it was compelling, and I rate it as a banger. P.S. Still recovering from Cody's interview. Gio the Theo said, tonight's Raw was really good. I can't think of one thing that I disliked or would change about the show. Although many people wanted Chad Gable to win, I'm very happy with Sami winning. In fact, I prefer Sami over Chad's. But there are too many 1v1 matches at WrestleMania, in my opinion. Well, there we go. We are done, my friends. That was your thoughts, your theories, your opinions for this week's episode of Raw. I do need to run away because it is literally just moments before the Wrestling Escape Pods. Of course, we've got NXT live stream coming up as well, and a big SmackDown coming up on Friday. A big thank you for all the support from me. Obviously, we'll have more unscenes coming on the channel as well. So much happening at the moment. It was a red-hot WrestleMania season. So we'll see what WWE have got for us next as we continue on the road to WrestleMania. Bye for now.